Well, good morning, City Church. I hope you are doing well today. This morning, I wanted to share with you some insights from 1 Samuel. The thing that I love about God's written word is that it always seems to be uncovering new treasures. I've read 1 Samuel probably at least 30 to 40 times, and yet is I feel like this is where the Lord has me right now in my reading. Again, it now feels like I'm reading it for the first time. The part that I want to hit on is in chapter 14. But before we get there, a little backstory to help fill in the gaps. At this point, Israel and the Philistines are preparing to go to war with each other. But really, before anything starts, the Philistines already have the upper hand, both in the number of soldiers that they have and also the equipment, because the Philistines had a monopoly on the blacksmiths. And at the end of chapter 13, it says, "So on the day of battle, not a soldier with Saul and Jonathan had a sword or a spear in his hand. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had them." And so you have about 600 soldiers in the Israelite army armed with bows and arrows and slingshots versus however many thousands of troops that the Philistines have that are all armed with swords and spears. And these two nations are about to go to war. And so now we pick up in chapter 14. And for time's sake, I'm going to skip some verses, but I encourage you to read the entire account for yourself. So starting in verse 1, it says, "One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to his young armor-bearer, 'Come, let's go over to the Philistine outpost on the other side.' But he did not tell his father. And Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, and with him were about 600 men. Jonathan said to his young armor-bearer, 'Come, let's go to the outpost of those uncircumcised men, and perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. And nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few.' And Jonathan said, 'Come on, we will cross over toward them and let them see us. And if they say to us, wait there until we come to you, then we'll stay there where we're at, and we will not go to them. But if they say, come to us, we will climb up, because that will be our sign that the Lord has given them into our hands.' And so both of them showed themselves to the Philistine outpost. And look, said the Philistines, 'the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes that they were hiding in.' And the men of the outpost shouted to Jonathan and his armor-bearer, 'Come to us, and we will teach you a lesson.' And so Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, 'Climb up after me, because the Lord has given them into the hand of Israel.' And that indeed is exactly what happened. And picking up in verse 17, then Saul said to the men who were with him, 'Muster the forces and see who has left us.' And when they did, it was Jonathan and his armor-bearer who were not there. And Saul said to the priest, 'Bring back the ark of God.' And while Saul was talking to the priest, the tumult in the Philistine camp increased more and more. And so Paul said to the priest, 'Withdraw your hand.' And then Saul and all his men assembled, and they went to battle." Now, what stood out to me in this chapter was the faith of Jonathan and the lack of faith of Saul. Jonathan realized that despite his circumstances and what he was able to physically see, that there is nothing that is impossible with God. He knew God is the God of the impossible. And so he says, "I'm going to see if God will deliver us." Yet while this is going down, we find Saul on the outskirts, hanging out under a tree. His posture doesn't say that he was ready to move, but rather he was waiting for his circumstances to somehow change. And when they finally did, the author writes, "Then Saul." And what struck me about this is too often, I identify with Saul when I should be identifying with Jonathan. I see all that's going on around me, and despite knowing better, I trust in my own understanding, and either I don't move or I say, "Withdraw your hand from the ark, time is wasting, and I need to move." And what I should be doing is taking a prayerful step forward, taking a prayerful step of faith, and just seeing what God does with it. So that's where my attention is, and I'm working to be more like Jonathan in knowing and in knowing here in my heart that I serve the God of the impossible, and that maybe, just maybe, he is waiting for me to move because he has already won the battle that is in front of me. I just need to get out from underneath my tree, however, in order to be able to see it. Have a great day.